And welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast Portable. Hello everyone, my name is Sushi B. How are you doing this wonderful day? We hope you are all well. And with me today is my wonderful co-host, and that is none other than Taylor Murugaru553. How's it going, dude?
It's going well, dude. It's going fine, going
Good,
good.
good. Nice to hear.
How about stuff?
Not too bad. Ready for what I presume to be a kind of lighthearted episode.
I'd hope it'd be lighthearted.
Yeah, I think it should go well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna dip back into the old NES's library here, and we're going to take a look at, I guess, a franchise that Nintendo. I wouldn't say they've been unsuccessful with, but certainly doesn't get the praise and the love that, say, Mario or Zelda or even something like Metroid gets, and that is the Kirby franchise.
I would say it gets a lot of love in Japan.
Okay.
Like I bought a little sword Kirby not too long ago, and I had that because I usually for my classes I'll have this basket of things that just so if I want to do something I'd be like, oh, let's use this kind of thing, and I clipped them onto the basket. And a lot of kids, a majority of kids, even in junior high school, are like, oh, it's Kirby, and I'm like, oh, hey, and then Kirby's quite popular.
Kirby's pretty awesome.
He's pretty awesome. It's kind of funny to see some of the differences in the artwork between Japan and North America's, because Kirby's kind of just this lovable, huggable pink blob thing in the Japanese box arts for a lot of the earlier ones, and then you get to the U.S. ones, he's always got like an angry face on
I have a scowl. Not so
to...
much for the game we're talking about today, though. His art's not as I've seen the Japanese art, and I see what you mean. It's definitely a lot softer, the art style. North American art is okay. It's not bad. It is a little different, but not all of them are negative or angry looking, that's for sure.
No.
And today's game is going to be Kirby's Adventure, again, for the NES. This is the only Kirby game that came out on the NES. And this is one of the kind of, I don't know if it's one of the final releases exactly for Nintendo on the NES, but it's definitely close to that time. The NES was starting to bow out by this point for the good old Super NES at this time. This is a game that came out in 1993, so very late in the NES's life for sure. But that didn't stop it from being an excellent game.
No, I think it definitely kind of helped it be. I think it helped it kind of be a good, enjoyable game, but also kind of make it a little bit more obscure. Because I'm going to be honest, when I was a kid, I knew nothing about Kirby. However, I knew about Lolo and Lala because I played the Adventures of Lolo 3 as a kid all the time. Horrifically difficult puzzle game, but I love that, and that's I guess it's called like the Eggerland series, but that's what I knew of this universe was Lolo and Lala. So the very first time I played Kirby, and I was fighting these guys as bosses, because they're the Lolo and Lala are the ones that always push the blocks. I was like, why are you guys fighting? These guys are just they're so no kind of thing. So
yeah, this is a really good point. I mean, it's weird. The NES, for me, this game I actually came across, fortunately, in a bargain bin when they were sort of just getting rid of the last remnants of the NES titles that this store had. And there were 3 games. I remember specifically 3 games were in this bin. It was Kirby's Adventure.
Billy Bayou Billy there?
No, Bayou Billy had gone long before this. So Kirby's Adventure, Zoda's Revenge, which is Star Tropics 2, and Mega Man 6. Those were the 3 games that were complete box, brand new, that they had. And they were selling them for $10 each. And I had to beg for $10. Like $10 was hard to come by for me as a kid. Like if I got $10, wow, I was really happy. Like I never got that kind of money. And I know people today are going to laugh about that, but whatever.
Oh no, I know the feeling.
So I had to beg, and I was stuck between these 3 games. I didn't know what I wanted to choose. Obviously, I knew what Mega Man was, and I liked playing Mega Man 2 and 3 as a kid. But I was like, oh, I don't know, 6 just doesn't sound so appealing. It sounds kind of, I don't know, something about it was just like 6,
Sounds
really?
tacky.
Like, yeah, it was like 6. So I kind of was like, probably not going to get that. And then I was like, Star Tropics, cool cover, interesting looking game, but I didn't know what Star Tropics was. And then I had played Kirby's Dreamland for the Game Boy. My friend had it, and I was like, oh, Kirby, I'm going to get this for sure. And so I ended up buying the Kirby, and I still have the original game and box and all that. Not on me right now, but I still have it at home. And I've never probably been more satisfied with the $10 spend, at least on the NES, maybe ever. It was a wonderful $10 purchase. So definitely lucked out there to find them and get it for so cheap. I ended up getting Star Tropics 2, but that's another story. Christmas present. But Kirby's Adventure, man, this is a good title. Definitely a good send-off for the NES. Good late title send-off.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how like the passage from the first game on the Game Boy and how that transitioned into what it became on the NES. And I don't know if Nintendo was just kind of like, yeah, sure, fucking make an NES game, whatever, fine.
Go ahead, Hal.
Yeah, right. Or if they're kind of like, oh, this would be a good kind of, I'm kind of curious to see what Nintendo's thought process was with that game being offered to be made and stuff.
I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, Kirby's really weird with that. A lot of Nintendo's systems, there's always like a late Kirby game. The Super NES had Dreamland 3. The GameCube had, what did it have? It had that Air Ride. I think Air Ride was semi-late. I don't think it was like right near the end, but it was late-ish. What else? I don't know. Nintendo has this weird habit of making like kind of late Kirby games. There was that one on the Wii that came out.
Not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, for the Wii, like as the Wii was pretty much kind of cooked. And then also the Dream Collection that came out was one of the last games on the Wii. At least I think Nintendo's last game that they made for it. So Kirby's always he's kind of pushed back in a lot of ways. And he's always put in these weird predicaments of like, let's make a miniature golf game with Kirby. Let's make a Kirby's Tilt and Tumble for the Game Boy Color. Like they put him in lots of really unique types of games. Like a lot of the other mascots from Nintendo don't really venture into sort of maybe Mario, but don't venture in these really bizarre kind of genre-bending games featuring a fairly well-known character.
And even some of the normal games are very different at times. Like what's the Canvas Curse? Is that the one where you're kind of just a ball and you're rolling around? Yeah. So that's, I mean, it always seems to kind of tweak the style, usually not just kind of the same thing all the time. I mean, look at the Super Deluxe game that came out on the Super Nintendo. That's just got a compilation of, 8 different games, quote unquote?
Something like that, yeah. Well, even the Epic Yarn on the Wii was supposed to be a different game, and they just tacked Kirby onto it, like, really late in the process, apparently.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
It was supposed to be a new, I don't know if it was supposed to be a new franchise, per se, but it was supposed to be featuring some other characters, and then they were like, why don't we just turn this into a Kirby game? So Kirby's sort of just thrown around, it seems like, which, to varying degrees, I suppose. Like, generally speaking, he's put in pretty good games from what I've experienced. But it's just kind of weird that Nintendo's just like, yeah, Kirby. They're kind of sitting on this really good property that they just don't seem to push enough sometimes.
At least they don't abuse it too much.
No. But it seems like Kirby should get a little more love from the company. It seems like he has a decent fan support. And it almost seems like Nintendo's just kind of like, yeah, we have Kirby. And I think they don't really promote him.
It also doesn't help that you also have a creator that's kind of got his hands full with Smash Brothers. So
yeah,
I think that might also play a little bit into it. Could be wrong, but
yeah, it could be. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
But anyways, we are here to talk about Kirby's Adventure for the NES. So let's have at it here. Let's start off with I guess opening thoughts. How about just general thoughts of this game? Like, what did you sort of think of the graphics and presentation for an NES game?
It's very, I like how the stage selection is done. So you don't do the kind of like the overworld map thing with had in Super Mario 3 or, from World 1 to World 2 or something, and I'm just using Mario because it's a platforming game. But you kind of have these doors that you can access. So you first start off in greens and stage 1, and then once you beat that, it'll unlock stage 2, and then you can beat stage 2 and unlocks certain other things. And at first it has kind of like it's not shaded out, but it's kind of blocked out by these stars, so you can't just say, oh, screw this, I'm going further on. But
Right.
I like that. I think it's really, really nice. Plus, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that if you're not getting the secret doors and secret areas, you can't access certain parts of the stage.
Right, of the world map.
Right. They're usually just like the bonus stuff. I mean, you have a crane game to get lives. You have areas which will allow you to just kind of get a power-up for Kirby.
Right.
And
the museums.
right, yeah, the museums kind of thing. And there's also other mini games like an egg eating mini game.
Yeah, which is really weird because King DDD always gives you the middle finger for some reason. Every time since I was a kid, I was like, what is he doing with his hand? It totally looks like he's flipping the bird at you.
Yeah, these day.
It's this weird animation. He does it right at the start, and then at the end he does it again. That's really strange.
It's a tough mini game too.
Yeah, it's tough. Actually, all the mini games are kind of challenging, especially we'll get into something later as to why they get really tough later on.
So I like that. I would say though that some of the stage designs, like some of the backgrounds and stuff, it can be very confusing. If you're not really kind of paying attention, it almost seems like at times they just threw some things in there to kind of fill up the background, which it definitely isn't plain like a lot of the kind of, I'm going back to Mario here, but some of the Mario games backgrounds will look like very plain, very empty. It never suffers from that, but it feels like it's a little too much or just kind of a little wonky at times, but I don't know. That was just kind of something I thought when I was playing through it. How about yourself?
Probably trying to show off just how hard you could push the NES, I presume.
I have no idea. I don't know if it was that or just to try to make sure that there was always some sort of image in the background and stuff, just so that, I don't know, so you wouldn't be kind of, here's this plain, boring background kind of thing, so.
It's hard to say. I mean, I would guess they were probably thinking that it could showcase that the NES could show these sort of power techniques or whatever. I don't know. We have to compare this somewhat to, they were trying to sell this game in comparison to SNES games at the time, right? So, of course, it couldn't look anything like, say, Super Mario World or something, but maybe they were trying to aspire to that with what they could on the NES. That could be part of it. I don't know, but
It could be.
One thing I really found interesting about this game, now this is the first game where Kirby gets color, because the first game he's in is on the Game Boy, which is funny. Kirby starts out as a Game Boy game, like this is where he's originally from, and not too many Nintendo franchises or characters really sort of rolled out of the Game Boy. Like Kirby's one of the few that's still going today. The only two others I can think of are Wario and Wave Race. Well, Wave Race actually started on the Game Boy as well. But so Kirby started in that game, and like all of the images of him, I don't know about in Japan, but at least in North America, he's just white. Like he doesn't have any pink features or the red shoes or any of that stuff. So this is the first game where he actually gets sort of gussied up. He's glossed up for this game. He's finally got color. The game itself has color. But I found the color in this game was really interesting because they went with all sort of secondary colors for the most part. There's not a lot of reds and blues and like heavy greens and stuff in this game. It's all the secondary colors like orange, purple, pinks, like all these colors that a lot of other NES games pretty much never used. Which I found really interesting, and it gave this game a little more style. And some of the color choices I don't really like a lot, like because you're just like, oh, it's a bit drab looking almost for supposed to be like this really colorful world. But I appreciate that they tried something different. Like so many NES platformers and stuff the character had to be red on a blue background or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, this is kind of boring. Every other game looks like this too. So I found that interesting that they went with this sort of color scheme that I don't recall any other NES games using heavy purples and oranges quite like this.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, there's definitely probably a few, but
oh, I'm sure there are.
but it's definitely got a very interesting color palette choice there. So
So yeah, anyway, that's sort of all I kind of felt about the sort of graphical presentation. I mean, Kirby's animated well. Luckily, he doesn't need to be animated too difficultly. I guess on the NES, he's pretty simple design, so that probably works to its advantage a lot. And most of the characters, some of them look pretty plain, but some of the bosses and stuff look pretty cool. So
Yeah, they definitely, with like some of the mini bosses and stuff, they have a good deal of detail to them, and not just just some sort of little blank slate. I mean, yeah, sure, some of the normal enemies do kind of boring looking, but
right. Well, pretty good animations, as you're saying, like on some of the mini bosses and some of the bigger bosses and stuff. Certainly moved a long way from how Mario looked extremely digital. It looks quite a bit different. It's not perfect by any means, but it's got some pretty solid detail. Oh, cool. What about moving ahead a little bit then? Let's kind of look at, you already mentioned a bit, some of the stage design. Like, what did you sort of feel about that sort of aspect of this game? Like, it's kind of different than a lot of other platformers in some ways.
Yeah, they don't seem to, outside of going from left to right, they don't seem to have, I don't want to say a rhyme or reason, but they don't seem to be so inclined to just have this flat stage. They try to have a lot of kind of different levels that you can kind of go through, or ones that always kind of stick to mind are those tower screens, the tower screens where you're basically running, and it's kind of like you're unscrewing the tower almost or something.
Right.
And as you're running, you slowly go across the screen, and the tower kind of is rotating, and it slowly kind of goes to the left, and eventually once you hit a certain point, the door kind of appears and stuff.
Poor man's Mode 7.
maybe I don't know.
That's sort of what they were going for, right? At least that's what it seemed like.
It was very interesting. I liked that those. I always enjoyed those screens. Sure, they could be kind of a pain if you're just kind of trying to run through. But
yeah, well, those damn flying guys that chase you down.
Right. but it's I don't know. I really like those. The worlds themselves are they're very interesting. You have that butter building. Isn't that the third world, I think? Butter building.
Yeah, butter building, ice cream island,
vegetable garden,
vegetable valley. I think.
Vegetable valley. Thank you. There you go. That's,
grape garden.
Grape garden. That's the one I was thinking of. And then
yogurt yard.
Ocean.
Orange Ocean.
Orange Ocean. Thank you.
And Rainbow Resort.
Yeah, I'll get the double letter.
Really, just playful, fun, cutesy sort of names.
Right, and they really don't have. They're not like the building one, kind of, because it's a lot of kind of the building stuff, but a lot of the other ones don't seem to. Well, I guess the ocean.
Oh, yeah, the ocean one's definitely.
Yeah,
starts
well,
out
it's yeah, but
pirate ship and stuff.
It's not in your face about it. I guess I want to say as
no. It splashes some variety. Like I think even on that World 6, isn't there like some ice stages like right near the end of it?
Right.
Remember? So they definitely splashed in these different ideas. I'm not sure if it was because somebody just had this genius idea thinking we have to put this in, or if it was more just trying to be creative. I don't really.
There's be a little different. Because really, like the ice stages, they're not very memorable in the way of...
No, and there's not even that many of them, though.
Right, so it's just... Well, I mean, I guess memorable because usually ice stages are the ones that are like, oh, because you're usually slipping and sliding all over the place, but because you're Kirby and you can fly, you can tell
just fly.
things to fuck off, then, yeah, it's like, whatever, I'll do what I want.
Right.
So
that's certainly an aspect we can bring up, is some of Kirby's abilities here. We haven't touched on that.
I will say this, the up button jump thing... That can go. That was a poor decision choice.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there not another Kirby game where as soon as you push the jump button, you can push the same button to make him fly right away? Am I wrong about that? I could have swore I played another Kirby game where you can jump and push A again, or whatever the jump button is, and he'll start to fly, like he'll float.
Could be.
This game, you can't do that. You have to push up, and it pisses me off half the time because I'm like, why can't I just push A? Like, my monkey brain is just saying, like, just push this button twice. This makes more sense to me than pushing up after jumping.
Yeah, I I'm honestly, I don't really remember,
I
because
don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it seems too. I don't know. It seems like there is another game that did that though. I can't recall exactly, but I don't know. Whatever. That's not that big a deal. But yeah, I don't personally like some of the controls in the game. The run is okay, but I like the slide. The slide attack is good.
slide attack's good. Yeah.
That's pretty good. The run is hit or miss sometimes.
Mm.
I actually played this time on the Wii collection that came out not long ago, and I was using the classic controller. Now, I think there's something wrong with it. Like I was using the D-pad.
Where you would jump sometimes and...
Well, he wouldn't quite start running. Like it was just kind of wonky. I don't know. I don't ever remember having that problem on the NES controller. So
I too played it. I'll own it on the Famicom, but I recently bought that 20th anniversary, and I was like, oh, we'll just play it on there. And I too had some issues with it on the with the classic controller. It felt a little, I don't know if just something wasn't clicking or if I'm just getting retarded or what, but
well, if we're both having that issue, maybe there was something sort of just not transferred properly with it, or
we're just both stupid. I
could be.
I just
Man,
went to
seriously, the NES version had like super tight controls. I remember not ever having issues.
I just went to I just used the Wiimote sideways. That worked.
That worked out? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I just stuck with the controller because to be honest, this game isn't that hard. I mean, you'll die probably a couple times. Don't get me wrong, but you're not ever gonna throw your controller playing this game.
If you
You did. So
that would be very sad.
yeah, I'd be surprised if you did. Maybe when I was younger, I remember having some trouble, but never to the point of wanting to throw the controller. But it's not a hard game. I mean, most of the Kirby games in general aren't terribly hard. There's tricky things about them, but
You just have to have, if you have an ounce of patience, just a little bit. I know as a child it's hard, but if just a little bit of patience, this game is incredibly easy.
yeah. This is an awesome game for kids, though, I think. This game, it's got no real, like, hard violence in it or anything. You get a really good, cute character. You know, it's not overly hard. Kids can play it, like, I don't know what's a good age. Maybe 7 years old can probably play this game and probably beat it. Maybe some kids that are younger, but this is an excellent game, like, for kids. I can't stress that enough. I think Kirby's probably the most accessible character out of Nintendo's catalog for kids, even more so than Mario.
Because Mario has fiendish jumps sometimes.
Well, and yeah, and
I don't
only
know.
recently has the Mario games added like health bars and stuff, right? Where Kirby's always had that. So
Right. Yeah, it's definitely some of the latter Mario games have been toned down in difficulty, if there really was that much to begin with. But
well, depends, and some people might find them frustrating.
so, but yeah, well, you're kind of going on, starting to go on about those abilities.
Yeah, well, let's save that for later. I got something for that. So
Yes, okay, all right.
all right. So actually, one thing I wanted to touch upon is what did you sort of feel about like the bosses and the mini bosses? I've got a list up here with all the different bosses in this game.
No, the bosses themselves weren't I'll start with the kind of the mini bosses. The mini bosses themselves, they were a nice kind of change of pace than what you'd get from just kind of going through the stages, which I think really helps the game instead of just being this monotonous kind of go from point A to point B, finish. You'd be intersected with these little mini bosses, and they aren't too difficult. I mean, like I said, you have an ounce of patience. Usually you know, kind of see what their pattern is, and then if you don't have an ability, they'll leave a star for you to suck up and shoot back at them, and you know, 3, 4, maybe 5 hits, and they're done.
Right.
And they're not really that difficult, but it's a good change of pace, and when you beat them, you can suck them up, and usually you can get from some of them, you can get like a freeze ability, or you can get some really good abilities from them, like the mic ability, the really random ones and stuff. And I like the mini bosses. The bosses, there's one or two that might be kind of hard.
Okay.
I can't remember their names though. One's
Well, let's roll through them and maybe that'll jog your memory then.
no, okay, all right.
Yeah, well, first one is Wispy Woods. He's
Right.
not hard at all.
No, no.
I think he's in every Kirby game too, right?
I think he is. I think he's always kind of that first one. He's like, hey, and it's
Hey guys, he's not even really that bad of a tree. He's just kind of
he's
blowing wind and apples are falling. He's not really...
and you're like, if you get the one of the abilities, or two different ones work really well on him. So if you do, for whatever reason, have any trouble with this game
Wispy Woods.
and this boss, the freeze and the spark ability will kill him, and you don't even
can
have to do it.
literally sit right next to him.
Right, right. And just destroy him that way. I mean, yeah, if you're having troubles with that, you might have troubles with this game.
Yeah, probably. As a kid, I could beat this guy, so I don't think he's probably too difficult. I love the design of that boss though.
Oh yeah, he's nice.
He's just kind of a nice classic Mario, or not Mario. Jeez, Mario. Kirby boss.
It's my fault. I keep talking. Comparing it to Mario.
Yeah, I like him. What about the second boss? This is that paint roller dude.
I think it's tough. Dude.
He can be. Apparently there's a trick on him too. You can just get Spark for him too and just literally sit in the middle. And he'll just like jump over and get shocked and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess if
He can be tough. I mean, this guy, he basically goes around the screen and he draws stuff on his canvases. Mm-hmm. And then Kirby can eat them or just shoot them back at him. But I would suggest you eat them because some of them are pretty good. You get you mentioned the mic, and you can do some pretty good damage on him with that.
Oh, one of them shoots out the mic?
Yeah, it almost looks like a top hat with legs, but I think it's supposed to be like an old style mic.
Oh.
That gives you the mics. So
I mean, first time I died the first time because I had like 2 bars of health and I had the stupid stone ability. And it's like I don't like this. Yeah, and needless to say, that did not end well. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use the laser, and I just decided to shoot him with lasers from far away. It's like pew pew pew. So
all right, well,
it took forever,
okay.
but if you're not used to it, or if you haven't played it in a long time and you forget the pattern for it, it might be a little bit of a pain in the butt, just because it's he goes from like 4 different spots, and 2 of them are up top and 2 of them are down below, and he might kind of psych you out and
trick you,
right, and go one way over the other, and you're like, oh darn it.
Right. That's possible.
Yeah, but if you're, like I said, ounce of patience,
you're good.
You're good.
All right. Well, this is the third world bosses then. This is the Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright. This is the Moon and Sun guys. I like them. I think they're pretty goofy looking, and they're kind of fun to beat up on.
Yeah, it's a cool fight too, because one of them sits pat and will kind of throw something after a little while, and then while you're fighting the other
guy. Right.
It's I don't know. I like that fight. It's a nice fight.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good boss battle. Mm. All right, and then this is the next guy is Krako, and he appears in quite a few of the Kirby games too, if not all of them as well.
If I remember, this is the eyeball cloud dude.
The eyeball cloud dude.
Yeah, this dude's a DAS. This
really?
guy. Well, the very first time I ever played through Kirby, I remember having issues with him because you have to get up to that platform to fight him.
Right.
And to get up there, you can't just, I'm Kirby, I float up there, because he'll just hound you. And he'll just be like, okay, fine, if you're going to keep flying, I'm just going to keep hitting. Right. So you have to kind of land on these cloud platforms. But they conveniently give you a weapon for that. Yeah, an ability that completely decimates him. Right. And it's the high jump, and that is such a powerful ability.
For him. Otherwise, that ability kind of poop for most of the game.
Well,
it can be useful, but
for the boss after, not really. But
it's a dangerous one because you can get caught really easily. Because Kirby's invincible as he's jumping, but once he's at the top of that jump,
right,
he loses it right away. So you can get hit and lose your star.
Yeah, so you got to be careful with it. But I mean, it's nice in a way because if an enemy is charging at you, like a mini boss or boss is charging at you, you can jump into them, and you've completely staved off getting hit kind of
getting
thing.
Damaged, yeah.
Right, so it can be very nice, especially for Krako. Krako, he doesn't know what to do when you start high jumping. He's like, oh my god, what's happening?
He just goes in the same pattern after that. He's just like, whoa.
Yeah. So.
All right, well, then boss number 5 here is the heavy mole, which is sort of this digger tank type. thing.
Yeah, I hate this. This is
Yeah, I don't like
it's
this.
it's just a
This
very
one's actually kind of hard.
slow. It's not hard, but it's just a slow sludge through. You're just like, okay, come on, and it's not too difficult really. It's just kind of very slow fight, and you're just like, all right, okay, come on.
You need a weapon for this guy to make it go by.
Right. So I like to use the laser even though it's so weak. I'm just like pew 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 pew.
Yeah, it works. That's probably why it took you twice as long when there's other weapons that just
Right.
decimate this guy.
Well, I mean,
But you got to get close with
I
these
mean,
other
just
weapons.
even the
That's
movement
problem.
of the stage because you have to keep with him, and he
Right.
is kind of slow, and you're just it's almost there's another. It kind of reminds me of a Mega Man X boss or something or something. It reminds me of some other platforming game boss, but it's just kind of like, all right, dude, you could not be here right now.
Fair enough.
So.
All right. Well, we get our first taste of a very popular character, at least through Smash Brothers, and that is Meta Knight.
He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is the first time we actually see him.
And he doesn't have Galaxia at this point. It's kind of, or he probably does, but it just looks like a normal sword. So who knows if it is Galaxia?
God, it's a sword fight essentially. Kirby gets a sword, he gets a sword, and it's mano a mano kind of thing.
Right. And Meta Knight's always he's always kind of been I think a popular character in the series just because of how nebulous the character can be. Because, he's helping, but he's also trying to, I don't want to say impede, but at least kind of better Kirby. And
He's sort of Kirby's dark side. He's sort of, that's the feeling I get out of it. That he's sort of like the opposite end of the spectrum without being like dastardly evil or anything, but he's sort of like the dark side.
I always thought of him as just kind of like he's there to kind of help Kirby get better, and at least it feels like at times.
He's trying to cut Kirby into little cubes.
Well, not just that. Well, the thing is that he also tries to have at least some sort of kind of honor when fighting, because he does give him the sword at the beginning, kind of thing. But I don't think he's as evil as you're thinking he might be.
He's pretty evil.
I don't think he is.
Whatever. Meta Knight's in this though. He's pretty. It's
cool his first appearance too. So,
yeah, it's his first appearance.
So he's very different than what he looks kind of later. He's
a little bit. I mean, you definitely get a vibe of it though, right?
Oh yeah.
It's not completely obnoxiously different, but it's definitely a little different.
It's very, very kind of plain compared to when you eventually kind of get like the wings and stuff, because you don't even see that. You just have the cape, the interdimensional cape thing. And his sword's just the same as the other sword, so it doesn't have that definition of the Galaxia blade kind of thing. And
that's probably maybe limitations on the game, and they probably didn't think about that at the time.
Right? Yeah, probably didn't have that thought until later, but
didn't want to really make him into any sort of special character at the time, probably.
Or
they did, or who knows, whatever. Anyways, let's move on to...
He's a
talk Meta Knight for a while.
A good boss fight, though. I mean, I've heard that it can be really, really tough, but I think they kind of toned him down in the remakes or something. In one of the remakes for the game, they really toned him down. He's very easy if you just kind of wail at him. But, I mean, if you're trying, like, say, not to get hit or something, not too difficult. I mean, he does have a certain pattern that he follows, so.
Right. All right, that leaves us with just two, and this next one I don't have too much to say, and that's King DDD.
What do you expect? It's King DDD.
Yeah, just he's all right. He's kind of got we haven't even mentioned that Kirby has the ability to eat things on screen and get weapons, but this guy's got a sort of same function. He can like eat Kirby and spit him out. He's got this random blimp move thing that's kind of pointless. He's got a hammer. He's all right. He's definitely a decent challenge. I mean, he's not really easy, but he's not overly hard.
Yeah, he's not too difficult. And once again, the ounce of patience kind of thing. If you know certain patterns that he does, I mean, you could just recognize two of them, and you could pretty much get away with just that. But I mean, he's not too, for being the second Kirby game, he's not too tricky with his patterns to really give too much issues, I would say. So
right. Yeah, he's okay though. It's not bad. All right, well, that gives us the last boss, which is broken up into 2 different fights, and this is the Nightmare boss. So first, we get this just sort of nightmare orb thing that you got to fight. I'm not going to say much about it. It's almost like a flying stage, like a sort of space shooter type stage. Not that amusing, not terrible, just there.
Yeah.
And then the last boss is where it really picks up, and he's got this sort of almost vampiric type appearance, and he's got this cape, and he shoots all these stars at Kirby and stuff, and you can only hit him when he opens his cape.
And it's a cool final boss because the stage looks like it's kind of like it's moving constantly from right to left, so it's a really cool image with the stars and
lots of good
sky.
detail.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the fight. It's not difficult. It's not difficult.
No, I think for kids it could be. It's
definitely.
You learn a few moves that you can kind of trick out on the guy, but otherwise it could be challenging, especially the first couple of times. I mean, it might be a little strenuous. You might have to kind of figure out what it does, but it's not horrible though.
I wouldn't say that it would be one of those things where you would get completely disheartened with like no, like it's kind of like one life left kind of thing, get game over or something. I don't really see it being that kind of evil of a final boss kind of thing.
I agree.
So, but it's at that point for that fight, you actually have the Star Rod, which if anybody plays Smash Brothers, you get that Star Rod and stuff, and you use that to attack, and it has kind of a distance to it with its little shooting star ability kind of thing. And
yeah, right. I think they go across the screen, right? I think they go all the way.
As
far as I know, the stars go all the way.
So yeah, I wouldn't be
Kirby's
surprised.
also got like a 360 Jedi Samurai type spin move thing. Jedi Knight move.
Well, he does that with the sword too. He has that
right.
spin. Yeah. So yeah.
But with the sword, you have to push the button with the sword, don't you?
To do the attack?
The spin attack.
Yeah.
But with the spin attack with the Star Rod, you don't. You can just jump and he automatically does it.
No, okay.
But anyways, whatever. Okay, well, you had alluded to earlier, and we have just briefly touched on that Kirby can eat certain enemies to gain abilities. He can eat any enemy in the game except for the mini-bosses and the main bosses. The mini-bosses you can eat after you beat them. But some of the enemies give Kirby powers, and when Kirby gets a power, he will change to a slight orange shade on screen, and then at the bottom of the screen there'll be like a huge box that'll say what ability you've obtained from this thing that you've eaten.
Some of the abilities that change them maybe blue, or there's a little bit of a color change for some of them.
Sure, but about 90% of them are orange, if I recall. There's only 2 I can think of that turn in blue.
As I'd say, I can only think of the blue ones are the common ones.
I think even Sword he turns orange, if I recall too.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyways, that's not that important a detail to be honest, but I don't think latter games in the Kirby franchise even do that anyways. So.
They give him hats.
Right, and he stays pink. So. All right, well, I wanted to play a round of 10 Degrees of Taylor with you and going through these different abilities. And we'll just do them real quick because there's
a lot.
a handful. There's 24.
Yeah,
so we'll just kind of give them a quick rating. We won't go into too many details. They're pretty self-explanatory for the most part anyways. Right. So let's rock here. First one we're going to do is your most cherished and loved, apparently, the laser.
Oh, I like it, but it's not very good.
It's pretty weak.
I'd give it a 4.
Okay, I'd probably give it about a 6 just because it's useful. Like, it's just super weak, that's all.
Right.
All right, a pretty self-explanatory one to go second, and that is fire.
I like how it's used in some of the stages where there are big cannons to get to secret areas. So you hit this wicker, and then you have to race over to the cannon and get into it and get shot up and stuff. It's a cool little ability. It's nice. I give it maybe a 7.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 as well. It's got not a really good range because Kirby's breathing fire, but it's useful. It's a good standard ability. All right, following that up with one of the ones that turns you blue, and that'll be ice.
Is this the one where it turns
This is the same as fire.
Fire. Okay.
except
All right.
it
Okay.
uses the ice.
Right. Yeah, I like it. I like how it turns the enemies into little cubes that you can kick out of the way.
Right.
I didn't use it very much. I don't remember getting it very often, but I give it a 6.
Okay, I'll probably give it a 6 too. I find the fire a little bit more useful, just because it automatically kills. The blocks are fine, but they don't really serve much function. They're just
There's not enough enemies for it to really be
true.
too useful. So
Right. Okay, well, following up that with the spark.
I don't mind it. I like it. It's not as good as freeze, but I don't mind it. Not amazing. I give that one a 5.
Okay, I'd probably give it about a 6. I like the animation. I think the animation's pretty cool for it. Follow up with Freeze then. Freeze does the same thing. Kirby, we didn't mention, Kirby sort of squats down and he just sort of gets like a protective, quote-unquote, barrier of this ability that he has. So Freeze does the same thing. It's like a certain small range around him that sort of has a frost shot, I guess.
Right. I like this one because it also has the ice ability because it'll turn the enemies into blocks and stuff, and you can use them that way. So I guess I'd give that one a 6.5.
Okay, I'll probably give that one about a 7.5. I think it's a pretty good one. Really good for some bosses. Next, the sword.
I love the sword. Sword has a hellacious range to it when it's just a normal slash, and it's pretty, and you get it right off the bat. I mean, it is the first kind of ability you can access through those kind of little museum stages.
The museums, yeah.
Yeah, so I would definitely give that like a 9 or something.
Oh, okay. I'm going to only give it a 7, only because when Kirby jumps, there's a lot of times in the game where when he does the jump spin attack, it doesn't have really good range. So you got to get really tight into an enemy, and sometimes I get hit still. When he's on the ground, the sword is really good, but as soon as you at all jump, it loses that range into the smaller ball attack, and so I'm like, kind of bugs me. Okay, we'll keep going on. Let's go with the the fireball.
The burning?
Oh, it's fireball in English. Sorry.
Okay.
Where he just slides across the screen.
Where he'll like turn into a fireball and shoot
a giant fireball and takes off.
I like this. However, this ability pisses me off because every time I used it, I had a wonderful knack of using it at just the distance to where it would wear off and an enemy would hit me.
Yeah, that happened a lot.
I got really fed up with it. I liked how you could kind of chain it, so if you hit a wall or something, you would kind of pop back in the air and just keep on the wall over and over again. Right. I don't mind it because it's really fast, but like I said, I always had a knack for getting hit with it. So you get a 5.5.
Oh, I love the fireball, but I had the same problem as you. Really unique idea for an ability. I'll probably give it a 6.5.
No, okay.
All right, moving on. What about the cutter?
I don't like the cutter at all.
No? Okay.
No, not really. Because when it hits the walls, it just kind of boop,
ricochets
and it's done. I do like how it kind of boomerangs back, but
that's not that useful.
Right? Yeah.
Some of the bosses, it's useful.
For some of the bosses, it'd definitely be really nice to kind of throw it and missed. Oh wait, asshole, you jumped right into it. But I never really used it, so I give it I guess I go with another 5.5 there.
Okay, it's useful a lot more in other games. It seems like it's just okay in this one. I give it a 6. It's okay. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the wheel. Another pretty unique idea.
It's nice, and it's good for there's one in particular area that I think of where you use it to kind of get a one up and stuff if you're fast enough.
There's actually a couple of times that I recall. Like, so you can avoid spikes and stuff, and
yeah, that's true. But it sucks when it comes to
not good for bosses.
Not good for bosses. Not really good. No, not really good for bosses. Because if you turn back around, you get hit.
Right.
And, yeah. It's nice to be running along in it, but I'd say this one's like a 5, really.
Okay. It's really creative. Another one similar to the fireball. I'll probably give it a 5.5 then. All right, follow that up with Crash.
Is this the one that just hits the area?
Right, where he sort of explodes, kamikaze explosion thing.
Yeah, that's cool. It's nice. It'll do some good chunk of damage, but you only get it once
Yeah, it's
or
not so
twice or
useful.
something. Yeah, so it's not that it's not useful. It's just
Not useful at times when you need it. That's the problem.
ooh, right. It's not something where it's like, there are so many enemies on screen. I absolutely have to use it at this point. So,
Right.
I'd kind of just give an average 5 for it.
I'm going to go 3 just because of the fact that when you get it, it's not useful. Like you don't get it for a boss. I think there's one time you get it for a mini boss, but otherwise it's just, that's it. All right, follow up with the mic,
And
which is a little similar.
Yeah, this is pretty similar to it, and yeah, but at least you get it 3 times. That
Right.
kind of helps it a little bit. So, I'd give it a 5.5.
Okay, I'll probably give this a little bit higher. It seems to be brought up in a little more usefulness at certain times of the game. You don't just get it randomly as often. I'll probably give it a 4, just a little bit higher. All right, one that's similar to the sword. That is the hammer.
I like the hammer, except for it's got that issue that you were talking about when you're jumping.
Yeah,
It has a range issue just when he's on the ground.
right.
The thing is, though, it's also used in the stage as well for
Yeah.
certain areas, which is really cool. I like how they use those abilities in different stages. So it's like, oh, you need this one here.
Right.
And yes, sure, you might bug her up and be like, oh man, I already got rid of it, or I have a different ability. But I mean, it's a nice thought that they had the kind of foresight to be like, all right, let's use some of these abilities in the stages. So I like the hammer. It definitely it's cool. So I give it like a 7.5.
Nice. I'll probably give it an 8, just for mostly what you said. The hammer is used probably the most for finding secrets out of all of the abilities, as far as I can recall, at least. So sometimes it's a pain in the ass too, though. You're just like, God damn it, I need the hammer. You need the hammer too. You're just like, oh, I totally need the hammer there.
Yeah, but usually they're good about presenting it
Somewhere's nearby usually.
right, and then it's like the next door over or something.
Right,
next
or if
area
it's
over.
not, it's like in the museum. Well, actually, it's never in the museum, but there's the one Battle Coliseum where there's the monkey guy. All right, moving along quickly here, as fast as we can. That is the parasol.
I like the parasol because it protects your head.
Noggin.
right. I like that. And how he'll float when if he's just jumps and you don't move, it'll kind of float and stuff.
Right.
It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. It's pretty nifty with what it can do. So I'd give it a 6.57.
Okay, I'll probably give it a 7. It's decent attack. It's similar to the sword and the hammer again, just a little weaker. That's all. All right, let's move on with the beam.
The beam.
Yeah,
the one that's the
almost like
kind
chopping
of-
down. Yeah.
Right. I hate that one. Well, no, I don't
Really?
hate it. No, it's not that I don't. I don't like its delay
Hmm.
because it starts up at an angle and then it cuts down.
Right.
It's not that I hate it. I just don't. I don't like it for some reason. I don't know why. It's just something just like even if I almost would rather not have an ability than to have the beam ability.
Hmm.
Just for whatever reason, I preferred a lot of the other abilities over it. So you get a 4 from me.
Okay, I'll probably give it a 4. It's okay. I mean, it can be useful at times. It's one of the. It might be the first
I think it's the first
ability you get in the entire game.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's not. It's just a little less than average. So, all right, let's follow that up with the throw. Now, this is one you can only get from the turtle mini boss.
This is an interesting one because how you get the enemies is you suck them up and
Right.
then press down. This one you suck them up and then you throw them. You can throw them to the left or the right.
Mhm.
I don't mind it, but I don't think you can jump or anything with it. You have to throw it.
No, yeah, you can only you have to throw right away and then you can move again.
Right. And can you throw it at an angle? Right.
You can throw it at like a top, like an up diagonal angle for sure.
Right.
I don't know if you can throw it straight up. I don't know. But
You can throw it at an angle and stuff, but it's not. It's not. It's like it's the ice plus the suction ability that you just normally have, and it's. I never really used it.
It's hard to hit, man. Like it's left to right, but if something is coming at an angle, it seems to not hit them very easily.
So yeah, it gets
powerful though. If you do hit, it's really powerful.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'd give it like a 3. I really never.
Okay, I'll go a little high. I'll give it a 5.
Ooh.
No, let's follow up with one that's kind of similar. It's the backdrop.
Yeah,
This one looks funny though.
It looks funny.
Kirby does like these wrestling moves.
Yeah,
it's
but
very interesting.
But it's just this one's another 3 for me.
Okay, if you can fly into an enemy, this one at least gives you a bit of protection though, right? Like Kirby seems to be invincible as he's moving. That's the benefit of having it. It's better than the throw in that regard, but otherwise it's kind of not very useful. All right, let's follow that up.
No, what's your score for it?
Oh, sorry, the backdrop. I'll give the backdrop a 5. I'll give it a little higher.
Okay.
Let's follow up. The ball.
The ball. This is.
I don't even know why this is in the game.
It's in there just to
piss you off.
to surprise you. This is just like the sleep ability. And the ball, you're a ball. That's all it needs to be. So it's
you can bounce and that's it.
You can bounce. You can roll around. It's terrible.
Yeah, and when I found out that you could bounce with it, I was like, okay, that must mean you can hit something. No, you can't hit anything. It's really weird. At least if they were going to make the ball, I thought, okay, if it's bouncing, maybe you can smash into things, which only seems logical, right? But this is a completely useless ability. So I don't know about you, but I'm giving it a 0.
Well, I was going to say there are no zeros, and I would at least give it a 1. Just
point 1.
It's horrible.
It's no good.
No bueno.
Okay, well, we'll follow up with sleep, which is just as bad because Kirby falls asleep and he can't do anything, and then he gets hit. So that's definitely a 0 for me too.
Yeah, that's another. That's another very low. I like it just because
the ball you can at least avoid things. The sleep you can't.
I just like it. It's a crafty way to be like you can't just eat everything because there are a couple enemies that you can't just suck up because then they get pissed and hit you. But it's another one of those where it's like, oh, you think it's ability and you just sleep. I like the little image for it though. It's got the little.
It's pretty obvious which guys you are the sleep guys.
Right. Yeah. So it's. Yeah, but I don't mind it in that regard, but it's not for an ability. So, yeah, it's a
all right. We've only got a couple left here. Let's just hammer through these. We got the stone.
This one sucks too.
Okay, I don't like the stone either. I'll give it a 3 though because it can be useful for some free lives and stuff. The high jump.
I like it. It has, like I said, it can be useful at certain points. I'd say probably like a 5.5.
Okay, I'm higher than you. I'm going to give it a 6.5. The light.
The lights.
I know this is the ghost that flies around and they're in some of those dark rooms, and then the light shows you what's in the room.
Yeah, I never really.
That's the only time you use it. So
yeah, it's, 1. I never used it.
I'm going to give it a 2. At least it has more functionality than sleep or the ball. So it's used for something at least. It's used for a secret room actually in one of the stages. So I'll give it a 2. I mean, whatever. The needle.
This kind of goes along with the stone and the spark and
the spark and the freeze.
Yeah, the spark and the freeze. But it's not as much range, so
no, powerful though. It's strong.
It's good, yeah, but not as much range. So 4.5.
Okay, I'm gonna give it 5. 2 left. Well, technically 2 left. The tornado.
I love the tornado because it's always spinning around.
It's dangerous, man.
It's a dangerous game to play, but it's
it's
so fun to just be like, you just spin around and like Tasmanian devil it.
I love the sound too.
It's fun. It's kind of chaotic, but it's fun. I like it. Give me that. It's a 7.5.
Just out of creativity, I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's pretty unique. I love the image at the bottom too, where it's like Kirby and his are like skinny.
right, yeah.
And he's sort of like falling out of the tornado almost. All right, the last one here is the UFO.
This is amazing. I love the UFO. The UFO.
It's got a big drawback though.
What is that drawback?
The drawback is you can't take it out of any of the stages you get it in.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But it's so damn awesome when you can have it.
Oh yeah, the problem is there's like one stage where you get it and it's almost the end of the stage and you're like, why did they even give me a UFO? Like, it doesn't even make sense.
It
There's one
takes,
stage where you get it and you can have it for like the whole stage and it's
right.
really useful, but
Yeah,
it's just too bad you can't like get it because it's so hard to get and just keep it. That's unfortunate.
it's so awesome though when you do have it. Like I
Mm,
like how you can charge it up and
mm,
blast and
big
you
shot.
like a star shot kind of thing and stuff. It's really cool. It's awesome. It's probably they didn't want to be able to carry it because it would be abused.
Oh sure,
So
but you could lose it pretty easily too. So I think there was enough balance they could have put it in, but
well, I
developers.
mean, especially with like the mini boss and stuff, you just kind of sit up in the corner and be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, you can just beam the hell out of them, right? So.
Right. So, I would say this is pretty awesome. I'd give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. I like it a lot. It's just I wish that you could take it out, but
Yeah.
whatever. The final thing here is just to mention, this is not really for a score. Kirby can actually mix abilities, and the image for this is amazing. It's Kirby holding a martini glass, and he looks like he's going to throw up because he's drunk too much. And it just says mix, and he looks, and he's got like the little like drunken bubbles over his head.
Right.
Pretty awesome image. So in this game, if you try to eat two abilities at once, Kirby will mix them, and then he'll get a random ability out of it, which is pretty neat, pretty clever again. It doesn't happen horribly often. It's pretty hard to get two enemies that have abilities right together and suck them up at the same time.
But when you do,
but pretty cool.
yeah, it's a
You get
very
that awesome image, and then typically speaking, you get something good out of it. You usually get like the hammer or some of the better abilities. Sometimes you do get the ones you don't really like, but pretty good.
yeah. So
Funny.
yeah.
All right, well, that's about it then. It took a little longer than I was expecting, but
But it's Kirby,
Kirby's Adventure.
and its music's awesome too. Yay.
Yeah, it's good music. It's a good, solid NES game, and it's a good follow-up to the first game. It really introduces a lot of the new elements. The biggest one, obviously, being the ability function in this game to get new abilities. So it's a good Kirby game, a good, solid game that I think if you like Kirby at all and you haven't played it, check it out. It's on that Kirby collection. It's available, I think, on the Virtual Console. It's I think it might be on the 3DS. It's pretty easy to come by. So
Yeah.
I don't know how expensive it is on the NES if you're looking for the old game, but
I have no idea, but it's definitely one of those that even if you just like platformers and you've never really given Kirby a try, definitely give it a try. It's a fun, wholesomely good game that's just it's Kirby.
right. I forgot it's on the GBA as well. It got a re-release, sort of like a reimagining, I guess, if you will. Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland.
Yeah, okay.
It was like a remake on the GBA, maybe 2002 or give or take, somewhere around there or something. I never played it. I don't know how good it is. I presume it's pretty similar, though. I've heard pretty good things. So
I think that's where the Meta Knight is easier.
That could be.
Comes in with that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, definitely, it's a really cool step up from the first game, which is the first game's fun in its own right, but it's like 20 minutes long. The first game's really short, but
really short. Yeah.
2-3 hours or so.
A couple hours, and you can take your time because you can save your progress in this game and stuff too.
Right.
So, just a small note too is actually after you beat the game, you can play it on a harder difficulty where Kirby has only 3 bars of health,
Yes.
and all of the bonus stages are now a lot more difficult. Like the crane game is much more faster,
Right.
and all this stuff. So it's a much more challenging game. A little easy on the Wii because you can just sort of keep a save state. So if you die, you can just kind of come back to it. But you can't save it. If you have it on the NES, which I did as a kid, and I actually beat it. I remember it took me a while to beat it. I think I sat there for like 3-4 hours trying to beat it. But if you want that a little bit of extra challenge, it's not still horribly hard, but it will give you a little bit of a little more difficult time. So yeah.
That, and just real quick, when you beat a stage, you have a chance to get a 1-up, and the 1-up sounds
Oh yeah.
are totally ripped from Eggerland, from Adventures of Lolo. It put a smile on my face hearing that. So
I just like seeing Kirby dance when he gets the 3 Kirbys.
Yeah. So
So nice. That's Kirby's Adventure for the NES. Right. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode and you rush out and try Kirby's Adventure since it's available on just about everything that Nintendo at least has out now. So give Kirby's Adventure a shot. You got any final words there, Taylor?
No, yeah, just give it a shot, play it, enjoy it, have fun, and yeah. Woo.
All right, so that will be it for us on another episode of Power On Podcast Portable. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay, let's do a small countdown and get it on.
Let's get it out.
With your man.
Let's get it out. Okay, I'm done.
I'll edit that out. Actually, I might not.
Not a fan of my falsettos.
Marvin Gaye did a little better than
I would hope you'd do better than that.
It wouldn't have been successful otherwise.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.